Hello again. In this lesson, we'll learn how to add dimension to our flowers. We'll focus on using color for a 3D effect, achieving dimension in your petals, and adding water drops. Let's start by looking at how color can help us add depth to our paintings. Let's look at my painting of roses in a teapot. Black backgrounds really set the stage to push forth your subjects. Your flowers on the outside may be a little dark, and the dark flower may fade into a black background, and we don't really want that. So as an artist, you can take artistic license and you can throw some white into some petals, and I really recommend using that heavy burnishing to brighten up a few petals to make them pop off the background. In this painting you'll see a purple flower, a purple rose here, and in reality it was fairly dark, so I lightened up the purple and I popped out some petals with my white pencil, and it goes very nicely with the rose on the left. Not everyone likes a pure black background like I do, so if you're somebody who would like to have a more natural background, I would just recommend that you darken your leaves so that you've got that nice contrast. You'll see some dahlias, some very pretty pink dahlias. That's a painting that I did. In fact, that photograph was taken in Ireland. And at the very top it looks quite bleached out, but that was intentional. I wanted that to pop off the dark background, so I just heavily burnished with my white pencil. And there's a progression of strong highlights at the top, mid-tones in the middle, and as we go down to the center of the flower it gets darker and darker. So it's a very gentle transition, but we've got all the values covered. I did choose to include some of those leaves behind the dahlia. I just kept them rather dark, and the white petals, because they're so white, they really come forward and they're very defined. The edges are very defined and it gives a nice contrast. So we've seen the drama of black backgrounds, which I prefer. But I'd also like to show you a lovely photo that I also like, but it has a more ethereal mood. It's softer, it's a softer palette, and this is a basket against a wall sitting on a piece of wood, and it's just, the background is fairly monochromatic and it's light, and the flowers are fairly light. The only place where the value contrasts is at the bottom of the basket, and so that's why it works. This photograph works, and it would make a lovely composition. So you can choose between a lighter background or a darker background, like what I lean towards. To make those darker backgrounds, we use more than just a black pencil and a lot of pressure and a lot of layers. We use a number of different pencils. One even includes a dark red, and I'll teach you about that in a few lessons forward. If you choose not to do that, if you choose to have something other than black, I recommend that you stay in the brown family or the dark purple family. Just use any of your darker colors to have that darker background and push your main subject forward. We've talked about adding dimension with dark backgrounds. Let's talk about how we make a petal three-dimensional. Over here, if you take a look at this petal right here on the right-hand side, it has a raised fold in it. And that is what I'm going to work on now and show you how lights and darks can make something look three-dimensional. I'm going to start with a mid-tone color. This is called Parma Violet, and I'm going to set the stage for my darker color. So I've already got a prepared base of those 3 layers that I've used before. I call it my initial palette, and it's that blue lake, lilac, blue lake combination. So now I'm just hitting it with a little darker shading here. And the main idea is to darken everything around this little curl, this little fold. I'm not going to be too precise, but I'm going to get that color down so you can see it, and of course I'm going to use my white pencil to blend it. Okay, and now you see that we've got that purple right here. I'm going to take another pencil called Violet and get it right up against the boundary of that curl. I'm doing this because I want that curl to pop. The only way that that can really happen is if I define the edges with a darker color. And now I'm going to blend that darker color in with my white pencil. This is a slower process, especially if I don't want my pencil tip to break. So now I've got the side colors, the colors on either side, that once I complete this petal, I'll blend them into the midtones of the petal when I do finish it out. But you get the idea here. I use something a little bit dark to create that, to make that fold pop. Now I'm going to color the inside of the petal because obviously it's not going to be white. We'll go back to that initial palette with a little bit of this blue. Some lilac. It's important that I use Whisper Soft strokes because I don't want to make it so dark that it's not three-dimensional anymore. When I'm doing this, when I'm actually creating this over time, I do leave this light area for last. I build up my values on the whole petal. This whole petal would normally be completely done. And then I will go to this light section and really work it and rework it so that it looks realistic but very light so that it will pop off and it will contrast against the actual midtones of the petal. I do this last because it's the hard part of the petal. It's the part that makes a difference. This is the 3D pop. We have to make this work, so I need to set my stage first. So you can see that I've blended this, and now I just need to layer, layer, layer until it becomes more realistic, adding a little bit of this, adding a little bit of that. I'm putting in those lines. I see these little striations in the petal, so I want to include them in there. They add interest. There's a little bit of darkness up against this petal right here, so I'm throwing in some violet. Take this opportunity to deepen the outside edges as well. Okay. I'm just throwing some colors on now as I look at my photo. And I take my pencil, we're going to start blending it all together again for that smooth transition. Keeping this center area lighter than the others. This center area right here. Blurring those lines so that they're more natural looking. Giving this area a little bit of depth. And it's starting to come together with this blending. This white pencil is just starting to make it look real smooth. I want to draw your attention to this little tiny area right here. It's like a semicircle or maybe a little teardrop look. Once I put that in, it will make it look even more realistic. So I'm going to use two pencils. If you notice, there's a little bit of blue in there. So I'm going to start with my violet, just kind of draw that guy in, color it in, and then throw some violet blue on it. Okay, there you have it. Nice contrast, that middle curl is going to pop forward a little bit, and that's how you do it. You use darker colors on either side of it, and then you refine it, you polish it, which I've started to do here, but you would continue working on that. So let's talk about water drops. You'll see on this photo that there are quite a few drops on the right-hand side. I love water drops. They're very easy to do. And I would caution you, though, not to do too many. You don't want your flowers to look drenched. You want them to look dewy. So I think that what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you on a petal that has already been done in this class how to throw a few water drops onto the petal. It's very simple, and I don't want you to be scared either, because you may be looking at your perfect painting and you may be thinking, what if I do this wrong? I can't erase. Well, you're right, you can't erase, but it's going to be very simple. So we start with a little bit of a curve. Let's place one right here. I'm just going to take my Parma Violet pencil, it's a mid-tone, and I'm just going to throw in a little circular, maybe elliptical drop. And I'm going to make it a little heavier of a curve on the left-hand side, and then bring it around, make it soft right about there. I'm making it a little heavier on this side because I don't want to just draw a big circle with equal pressure all the way around. I'm also mindful of where the light is hitting this flower, and the light is coming from over here. So this is where a natural shadow would occur. By doing this, I'm creating dimension, and when I start blurring it with my white pencil, that'll make it pop even more off the petal. So let's get this color down, very soft. I'm going to take my initial blue color and kind of gray it down a little bit. And then take the white pencil and start blurring it and blending it. I'm going to push down hard, kind of pull a highlight out, and then start blending all around, blending that line down. Because shadows are a little bit fuzzy. They don't have any definitive lines, so that's what we want too. So we're just going to make a fuzzy. And there you have it. That's our first water drop. Takes less than a minute. And we can do another one. I don't recommend that all your water drops are uniform. Maybe make a different, sort of an elliptical one here instead of round. What I like to do is place my water drops on initially, just put them all around until I'm happy, and then go back and render them with the second pencil and the white pencil and the blurring. It just helps me with my idea of composition. So that was the purple. Put a little bit of blue on to gray it down. Pop in some white. Blur it, blur that shadow. Press down a little bit. And there we go, a dewy drop. Water drops are a great way to add dimension, a little more detail, some more interest to your flower paintings. And even if you don't have flowers that you're taking pictures of that have water drops on them, that's no problem. Just get an empty Windex bottle or a spray bottle, fill it with water, go out, squirt, squirt, fire away with your camera, and you'll be all set. So just looking at the finished painting, I want to go over a few of the points that we made about causing it to be a three-dimensional piece. This is a very simple flower. How can we make it come forward? Well, the black background works, the darker leaf works, and within the interior of the flower, we used a few things like a lighter petal and also these water drops. One thing that I do when I finish my painting for the night, and not when I completely finish it, but I'll actually shut off a couple lights so that the room is in semi-darkness. And that way I can see if I got my values correct. If my darks are the way they should be, if my lights are popping the way I want them to be. But just turning off a light or two will really, really help you when you're trying to figure out what your midtones are, where your darks are, and if your highlights are bright enough. So to recap, we looked at using color for a 3D effect, achieving dimension in your flowers with different values to raise a petal fold, and adding water drops as another way to get depth and dimension in your work. Your homework is to create water drops on your flower and see how it adds interest to your composition. In our next lesson, we'll be adding a new medium, watercolor pencils with a beautiful yellow rose. See you there.